It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
These are the final seconds.
The lead in the fourth. Can they hold on to it?
That do or die time. And everything rides on one shot. But it isn't going to be that easy.
And it's a one-point game.
This is down to the wire.
They're going to try the three-point attempt.
One shot to take you to the top. One winner. This is clutch basketball. That's the NBA playoffs. That's game.
Today's episode of the Locked On Phillies podcast is brought to you by Locker Room. Download the Locker Room app from iOS App Store. Find one of our Locked On rooms. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Locked On Phillies podcast, coming to you on the evening of Thursday, April 1st, 2021. A great opening day all across baseball. I, of course, am your host, recent Temple Media School graduate and lifelong Philadelphia Phillies fan, Dan Wilson, and included in the opening day festivities, Phillies hosting the Atlanta Braves at Citizens Bank Park. 8,800 fans on hand. First-time fans made their way through the Citizens Bank Park gates in more than 500 days. You have to go back to late of the 2019 season. September, early October was the last time that fans have ever been in Citizens Bank Park for an actual game. Great to have everyone back, and what a great game it was. First of all, it looked cool to have everyone spread out, of course, doing things safely. But what a good game that everyone got to see today. It was a 3 o'clock game. It was a little cold. People were bundled up. Happy to be there. Happy to wait this thing out until the end. It was a long game. Went 10 innings. I'll take you through it here in just a second. First of all, Phillies get off to a really hot start in this game. 1, 2, 3 goes Acuna, Albies, and Freeman. A fly out, strikeout, ground out, respectively. Nola dealing right out of the gate. And then in the bottom half of the first, we got McCutchen leading off the season with a single. Hoskins flies out to center. Harper walks. Realmuto gets hit by a pitch. You got bases loaded, one out with, and who else would you want up in a situation to drive in runs other than Alec Bohm? Well, he does his job. He flies out to left. McCutchen scores. Close play at the plate, but a sac fly nonetheless. Phillies are on the board 1-0, and then ultimately Didi strikes out. You would have liked to maybe get a few more runs there to really pile on the Braves early, but nonetheless, we'll take it. Get a run right from the get-go. Then we go to the third. I'll go back. So it ultimately ended up that Realmuto has a single that leads to a run here, and that'll be the highlight that gets played. And Harper got thrown out at third, and he thought originally he was safe, but the replay showed he got tagged on the shin. I want to go back to the beginning of that inning. McCutchen leads off the inning with a strikeout. Rhys Hoskins had a double to left field, and he ripped it down the line, and it was an 83-mile-an-hour slider way in on the plate. And the TV broadcasters alluded to it a little bit, but I kind of wanted to elaborate. If you had a chance to see the video, or you were listening to the game on radio and didn't have a chance to see it, whatever the case might be, I'm going to try and describe it. Like I said, 83-mile-an-hour fastball in on his hands keeps this thing fair. Rhys Hoskins a few years ago probably rips this ball way foul when he was a dead pull hitter. I had talked about it a number of times on the podcast, talked about it with Jack Fritz earlier in the week. This is a guy who has certainly changed his mindset to try and, hit things towards the center of the field. And in this case, it wasn't towards the center of the field, but because he's not a pull-happy hitter, he's able to keep this ball fair, rip it down the line for a double. He ultimately comes around the score on the JT Realmuto infield single. Phillies go up 2-0. Really, really good piece of hitting by Rhys Hoskins. Later in the inning later, Aaron Nola in the fourth, he lays down, so it's one runner on, one guy out, and of course, no DH in the National League this year. So what does that mean, whether you like it or not? It means we got more pitchers bunting. So Gene Segura leads off with a single, Adam Hazley strikes out, Aaron Nola due up at the dish. That means that he's going to bunt. Well, he bunts, and Freddie Freeman tries to get a little cute with it and tries to throw out Gene Segura at second base. Well, that throw goes into center field, first and second, with Nola base running. Unfortunately, the Phillies could not make them pay. Andrew McCutchen hit into a fielder's choice, and Rhys Hoskins struck out swinging. I thought that was going to be a big play in the game because you feel like when the Braves give you something like that, in particular, and Freddie Freeman, usually a pretty smart player, I think got a little cute. I think he should have just probably taken the out later in the game, ironically. He did just go to first on a Nola bunt. He actually had two pretty good bunts in this game. That they didn't capitalize on that. I thought maybe that was going to be kind of a point in the game that could have been a turning point, something to remember. Ultimately, the Phillies did win in this one, so fortunately, it did not matter. We'll fast forward to the 6th inning, and this was one of the absolute plays of the game, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. The Braves, they were threatening in the 6th inning. The inning started with an Acuna single, then Ozzie Albies, he fouls out the 3rd. Freeman reaches on a Rhys Hoskins throwing error. So now both first basemen have committed an error in the game. Acuna gets the 3rd, Freeman gets the 2nd. It was a ball hit to Hoskins. It kind of turned him around a little bit. He tried to flip it to Nola, covering the bag. It got by him. So now they have runners at 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. And ultimately, this led into a situation where they have 1 out, 2 guys in scoring position, and Marcell Ozuna and Travis d'Arnaud with a chance to knock them in. Well, Marcell Ozuna rips, and I mean rips a ball down the left field line, and Alec Boehm took all of his giraffe-like frame, as the Phillies Twitter account referred to it today, and he reaches up and grabs this line drive, basically out of midair, easily saves 2 runs. Huge, huge play in the game, and then Aaron Nola gets the punch out looking on Travis d'Arnaud to end the top of the 6th. Huge, huge point in the game to basically stop the Braves from scoring 2 runs. That was huge. Then we go to the 7th inning, and Aaron Nola is cruising along. And again, we've talked time and time again about how difficult this Braves lineup is. And that Braves lineup was on full display today. And there were a few times where Aaron Nola probably should have been taken deep. Dansby Swanson had a ball ripped to left field that on any other day at Citizens Bank Park probably goes 15, 20 rows deep. Wind knocked it down, landed into McCutcheon's glove. Freddie Freeman had a ball like that. Now, of course, it works both ways. Bryce Harper also had a ball that he ripped the other way in today's game that probably gets out on any other day, too. The wind is keeping everything in. Well, that didn't stop Brian Snitker from sending Pablo Sandoval, who feels like he's been in baseball for 40 years at this point, although he's actually only 34 years old. He goes up with the runner on, and the final batter that Aaron Nola faced in today's game, and really the only mistake he made, he missed his spot badly, runs a fastball in to Pablo Sandoval, and he rips this thing nearly 400 feet into the upper deck, tie game 2-2. Devastating at this point. I was ready to punch a wall that Pablo Sandoval, of all of the guys in this Braves lineup, that Pablo Sandoval was the guy who was going to knock Aaron Nola out of this game. But now it's tied 2-2, brand new ball game, as they say. Archie Bradley comes in, finishes out the inning, by the way. He walks Acuna, but then ultimately got a fly out on Ozzie Albies. So midway through the 7th, we are still tied 2-2. Phillies didn't really make any noise in the bottom of the 7th. We go to the 8th. Braves threatening big time. Jose Alvarado, who anyone who listens to this podcast knows I'm a huge, huge fan of, has absolutely filthy stuff. He had a little bit of trouble in this one, throwing 5 balls right out of the chute. He walked Freddie Freeman on 4 pitches. Caleb Cotham comes out to the mound, and after the 5th ball that he threw, ball 1 to Marcell Ozuna, was like, you got to calm down. Pitches are good, pitches are hard, but they were just nowhere near the plate. He ultimately gets Marcell Ozuna to strike out swinging on a nasty slider that started over the middle of the plate and nearly hit him in the back leg. d'Arnaud then got a single to left. Swanson struck out swinging. Austin Riley got hit by a pitch, another one of those sliders that looked like it hit him right on the leg. It just went too far in on those right-handed hitters. And then Kristen Pache, who nearly got 2 runs in for the Braves. He strikes out swinging. Huge inning for Jose Alvarado. He gets out of it scoreless. Huge day for this bullpen in general. We fast forward to once again, the Phillies don't really have anything going in the 8th inning. They did actually get Didi to lead off the inning with a single. Segura hit into a fielder's choice. And then Segura stole second, but it was Roman Quinn and Brad Miller who tried to knock them in, and a strikeout and a lineout respectively. Couldn't get anything going. So they did get a runner into scoring position. Didn't really seriously threaten. And so now we go to the 9th. And it's still a tie game. And maybe one of the plays already going to be in the Phillies highlight reel at the end of the season. That's how confident I am. Hector Neris comes in. He gets a ground out, a strikeout, and then Ozzie Albies pops up to shortstop, and Didi Gregorius going over the middle of the field like he's a receiver. I mean, I want Jalen Hurts throwing to him next year after I saw this play. Going over his back and basically pins the ball up against his chest with his glove. He ends the 9th inning. Phillies go down 1-2-3 in the bottom half of the 9th. So then we go to the 10th. We still have the extra inning rules in place. Runner on second base. Connor Brogdon pitching for the Phillies against the Braves. Albie starts at second base. Freddie Freeman grounds out. He moves Albies over to third. Marcell Ozuna, he flies out to center. Roman Quinn, of all people, who did not start in this game, but he got put in later in the game due to some left hamstring tightness from Adam Hazley. Doesn't seem too serious. He guns Ozzy Albies out at the plate to keep this a 2-2 game. And then in the bottom half of the 10th, again, runner on second base, it was Bryce Harper who starts at second. Real Muto grounds out. He moves Harper to third. So just the way the Braves inning started, the Phillies got it too. Now here was an interesting decision from Braves manager Brian Snitker, and we'll get to this more on the other side of the break. But Bohm grounds out, so now they have 2 outs. They intentionally walk Didi Gregorius. So now you have runners on first and third, 2 outs. See if you follow me here. They still decide to pitch to Gene Segura. They still had one more base open. Could have walked Segura to get to Roman Quinn. They do not. Segura, Baltimore chops a ball into left field. Phillies win 3-2. I hope you followed all that because it was an action-packed day down at Citizens Bank Park. I'll be breaking down it all on the other side of the break. Brian Snitker's decision to pitch to Segura, how Aaron Nola fared in this one, and how the only guy who beat him essentially was Pablo Sandoval, what the bullpen looked like, and a whole lot more on the other side. But first, I want to tell you about my friends at Locker Room. Locker Room is the perfect place to start or join conversations about Major League Baseball. You'll find fans just like you on Locker Room for watch parties, debates, post-game breakdowns, and of course, reacting to big news and rumors. You'll have a chance to chat with me and might even have a chance to be featured on the Locked On Phillies podcast through our Locker Room conversations. Go to the free Locker Room app now. You can download it on all iOS devices. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, join the MLB group for the latest league updates, and be sure to follow me at Dan_Wilson4 on Twitter, as well as the podcast at LO_Phillies to be notified when the Locked On Phillies room does go live. I know you won't want to miss it. I'm planning to be live sometime later this week as well as throughout the course of the season. Seriously, guys, Locker Room is revolutionizing the way that we talk sports. Again, follow me at Dan_Wilson4 and the podcast at LO_Phillies on Twitter to be notified when I'm going live on Locker Room. Also want to tell you about my friends at rockauto.com. Look, with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible to stock all of the parts you need in a traditional chain storefront. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the counterman orders the parts on his or her computer, choosing only the brands they happen to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Chain stores have different price tiers for professional mechanics and do-it-yourselfers. Rockauto.com's prices are the same for everybody and are reliably low. RockAuto.com always offers the lowest prices possible rather than changing prices based on what the market will bear, just like airlines do. RockAuto.com is for everybody, does not require membership or account login. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for more than 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com, shop for the auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers that you're sure to need. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. It's RockAuto.com. Get all the sports news you need in less than 20 minutes with the Locked On Today podcast. Host Peter Bukowski updates you on the latest news in every major sport with the help of our local experts. Follow the Locked On Today podcast with the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Lots to react to from this one, lots of action, but I will start at the very final inning. The decision to walk Didi Gregorius but not Gene Segura. Look, once you have Alec Bohm out, and I actually thought that he was going to be the one to walk it off here on opening day. He proved to be clutch a year ago in his rookie season. He grounds out to third. So now you have Bryce Harper on third base with 2 outs. And ultimately, you might as well just pick which of the next 3 hitters you want to face because he's the winning run. He's the only guy that matters at this point. So you have Didi Gregorius. Okay, you don't want to face him. You have Gene Segura. I mean, unless you think your pitcher in Nate Jones physically cannot throw a strike, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't pick the worst hitter of the 3. And I don't think I'm breaking any news to anyone here. Roman Quinn has to be the worst hitter of those 3. Look, Gregorius, Segura, Roman Quinn is the bottom of your lineup for a reason. Roman Quinn not even starting in this game. If your concern is that he is a switch hitter and could move over to the other side. The Braves had had multiple lefties who they still hadn't gone to in this game, whether it be a guy like Grant Dayton, Sean Newcomb, and nevertheless, I'd still just want the worst hitter up there. Look, Roman Quinn's OPS last year was below 600. And not that Gene Segura has proven to be the all-star that he once was since he's been with the Phillies, but he's a better contact hitter, more likely, I think, and I don't think I'm in the minority here, to give you a good at-bat, give you a hit, as he ultimately did for the Phillies, than Roman Quinn. So I thought it was a very interesting decision. Again, I like the decision walking Didi. I think Didi's probably the best of those three guys and the guy I would want to face the least to try and drive in Harper with 2 outs. But once you walk Didi, what do you have to lose by also walking Segura? Now you have the bases loaded, force at any base, and I probably don't have faith in Roman Quinn to walk off the game there. And you know what? If he does, and you're Brian Snitker, you tip your cap, because he probably has the least likely chance to get a hit there and come through with 2 outs. So a fly ball on the ground to the right side, that's not going to cut it. That guy physically needs to get a hit or draw a walk. And at that point, you tip your cap and you say, okay, Roman Quinn beat us. He was the worst guy. I thought it was a very interesting decision by Brian Snitker to let Gene Segura. He ultimately liked the matchup of Nate Jones versus Gene Segura. He loses it. Gene Segura, again, hitting what's essentially a Baltimore chop to left field, drives in Bryce Harper for the win, and the Phillies are 1-0 in a very exciting game down at Citizens Bank Park earlier this afternoon. Also wanted to talk about the Phillies pitching here today, because I think the offense, even though it didn't necessarily show up with big numbers today, the offense is where I feel the strength of the team is. I think it's where a lot of people feel the strength of the team is, being one of the top 5 offenses in all of baseball last year, blowing countless leads, more so in the bullpen than the starters. The bullpen going scoreless in today's game, and not without some scares. I mentioned the inning from Jose Alvarado loading the bases and then working out of the jam, but look, hats off to the bullpen today. 3 1/3 inning, scoreless, only allowing 1 hit, and that was Alvarado. It was really the only scare was Alvarado walking a guy and hitting a batter. He actually put 3 runners on in 3 different ways: a hit batsman, a walk, and a hit. Hector Neris had a clean inning. Connor Brogdon had a clean inning. Archie Bradley walked the guy when he came in to finish the 7th, but he gets a fly out to finish his inning. And that was a pretty clean day for the bullpen. And again, the starting pitching out of Aaron Nola, he was really pitching well until Pablo Sandoval, of all guys, beats him. I mean, Pablo Sandoval, the only guy who drove in runs for the Braves in this game. Listen to the top of this order. Ronald Acuna, he had a pretty good day at the plate. He had 2 hits. Ozzie Albies, 0 for 5. Freddie Freeman, 0 for 4. Marcell Ozuna, 1 for 5. Those are guys that if you can keep their bats silent at the top of the lineup, and again, few balls kept in the ballpark, especially to Freeman, Dansby Swanson further down in the lineup, but he had one that was definitely kept in the yard. Bryce Harper had one that was kept in the yard in this game as well. And Marcell Ozuna essentially robbed of a hit by Alec Boehm that easily would have driven in too. If you can keep their bats silent on the score sheet at the end of the day, you're doing something right. And Aaron Nola did it, the bullpen did it, so hats off to them. Doesn't excuse getting beat again by Pablo Sandoval, and it was going to be really annoying. I mean, my opening day really would have been ruined if that was the reason the Phillies couldn't get over the hump today. And what's a big divisional series to begin the year. But I'm sure as we go in these next 2 games this weekend against the Braves and the Phillies travel to Atlanta next week, I'm sure we'll be hearing from Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, and Marcell Ozuna just a little bit more than we did today. I'm sure we're going to be hearing from the Phillies offense a little bit more than we did today. But ultimately, very pleased with how everything went. I thought that Alvarado, like I said, if he can just command the zone a little bit better, he was a little wild today, but if he could command the zone, his stuff is filthy. He had the strikeout to Ozuna, like I said, started over the middle of the plate, slider basically hitting his back leg. The hit batsman basically drilled him in the back leg. It was great to see him finally get out there, work out of a jam today. It was great to see Connor Brogdon pitch a scoreless inning. It was great to see Hector Neris pitch a scoreless inning. And look, not in a closing situation, but he did pitch the 9th. It was in a tie game and got some help from Didi Gregorius, but a nice clean inning for Hector Neris. And I know that certainly good to see as well. His velocity was a little bit lower than maybe where you'd like to see it, so keep an eye on that. But ultimately, a really good day for the Phillies pitching staff and a really good day for this team all around, and a really, really good win on opening day. Always great to get a win on any given day against a divisional opponent, but especially on opening day, start that season out on the right foot, and hopefully they can now have a chance to win a big series coming up here on either Saturday or Sunday against the Atlanta Braves. On the other side, wanted to go further in to previewing the remainder of this series, pitching matchups, as well as looking at Joe Girardi's lineup here today, maybe some foreshadowing what it means, some certain roles that the bullpen was used. I think we had a number of questions answered, at least earlier in the season. I think that there's a lot of fluid situations to bullpen roles and lineup combinations and things like that, but some things I wanted to make note of as we head into the weekend with what, again, is already a big series against the Atlanta Braves. But first, I want to tell you about my friends at betonline.ag. Look, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. Football might be over, but the NBA, college basketball, and NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to the website or use your mobile device today and sign up to receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Again, that promo code is LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. It's betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. Also want to tell you about Built Bar. Look, we've been telling you about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market right here on the Locked On Podcast Network for a while now. Built Bar is the amazing low-calorie, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber, amazing tasting protein bar with 100% chocolate on all bars. Well, now you can go to BuiltBar.com, follow them at @bar_built on Twitter, see all the things they got going on, but also remember to use that promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. Again, that's LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order at BuiltBar.com. It's the best tasting protein bar ever. My favorite is personally the cookies and cream, but they have dozens, and I mean dozens of flavors to choose from. They're great for the health-conscious guy or girl. They taste great, and they will keep you in shape. Again, go to BuiltBar.com to get your next order of Built Bars with the promo code LOCKED15. If you're the type of baseball fan that can't help but get giddy over prospects, we have the podcast for you. Locked On MLB Prospects, hosted by minor league play-by-play voice Aram Leighton, is the only daily podcast devoted entirely to the stars of tomorrow. Follow Locked On MLB Prospects on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Few things of note here as we break down opening day and turn the page to the remainder of this opening series against the Atlanta Braves at Citizens Bank Park. First of all, I just want to say, there is no dumber tradition in all of sports than the off day after opening day. I know for years they used to have a luncheon. It's like welcome back for the players, and I'm sure a number of the players and team employees like it because there's a lot of preparation that goes into opening day, and they kind of get a breather. But from a fan's perspective, from a purely fan's perspective, I just want to say, you get all revved up for baseball. We have a great game today. Gene Segura walks it off at the 10th. And I want nothing more than for a Friday night baseball game in South Philadelphia to be on my TV tomorrow or to be heading down to the game. And it's an off day, and there's only 6 games in all of baseball tomorrow. There might have actually been 2 added from today because there were a couple of cancellations, one due to COVID, so I don't know if that's going to get made up, but 1 rain out, I believe, so might add to that total. But there were only 6 games originally scheduled on Friday in all of baseball. Come on, we want baseball. We want more baseball, and they always do it. But look, nevertheless, we've waited this long for opening day. We will wait one more day of an off day. It just seems like a waste of an off day. And then Saturday and Sunday, we will have the Phillies and Braves. A few things to note from this game, and then I'll preview Saturday and Sunday's games. In today's lineup, I mentioned that Adam Hazley got the start. For years, the Phillies never really seemed to like to start Adam Hazley against a left-handed starter. Max Fried, of course, is a left-hander, and they went with Adam Hazley getting the start in center field. I had mentioned that he had the best spring, essentially, of anyone in a much smaller sample size due to injury of all the guys in the center field race. He ultimately gets the start today over the switch-hitting Roman Quinn. Roman Quinn did come in later in the game, had a huge gun out at the plate from center field on a throw, and then Ultimately, who knows what would have happened if he had a bat in his hand with 2 outs and the bases loaded in the bottom of the 10th, but Brian Snitker never brought it to that. He did come in later in the game also for the reason of they had a few lefties coming out of the bullpen, and that's what I thought was so interesting, is that they clearly showed they were willing to put Hazley up against a left-handed starter. It makes me believe, when I look at this lineup and this lineup going forward, at least to start the year, you got Charlie Morton going on Saturday, Ian Anderson going on Sunday for the Braves. They are both right-handed. You would have thought that if you were going to give Roman Quinn a start in this series, it would have been today. They ultimately, or Joe Girardi ultimately decides to go with Adam Hazley. So he seems like your everyday starting center fielder, at least for now, on a small sample size to begin the year. No real surprises in the lineup today. You had McCutchen leading off and left, Hoskins at batting second at first base, Bryce Harper batting third and right, JT Realmuto catching behind the dish, Alec Boehm hitting fifth at third base, Didi Gregorius batting sixth at shortstop, batting seventh at second base with Gene Segura, batting eighth to start was Adam Hazley in center field, and then just an even swap, Roman Quinn playing center field and right in the eighth batting spot and the pitcher spot with Aaron Nola starting, and then a pinch hitter ultimately in Brad Miller batting ninth. I think that's about the lineup we expected. I think there's a few guys you could toy around there. I was talking earlier in the week what's going to happen on days where someone like Andrew McCutchen sits, because I think he gives you 120, 130 games this season, assuming health, and there are going to be days where he can't be leading off, and should he miss sizable time, do they really have a leadoff hitter on this team? Do you see a guy like Alec Boehm, if he sprouts into the potential I think a lot of people around Philadelphia, myself included, believe he has? Does he ever move up from the 5-hole? Guy draws a lot of Jason Worth comparisons. Maybe he moves up. I could see maybe if he was up and Rhys Hoskins' stock was dropping, maybe move him into a guy like, or you move Boehm up into a spot like the 2-hole. I don't know. I think there's a number of interesting lineup combinations with this team. Ultimately, I do like Bryce Harper hitting third, but some managers would say you want to get him as many at-bats as possible. You move him hitting second. So I think there's an interesting lineup thing going on here. Ultimately, JT Realmuto, look, he's a good hitter, but Alec Boehm is a better hitter, in my opinion. So maybe you swap the two of them. Like JT Realmuto, as good as he is and as exciting as it is that we got him back, maybe he doesn't seem like a pure cleanup hitter, if that makes sense. And look, Ryan Howard is like the prototypical cleanup hitter, right? I don't know if they necessarily have that on this team. I think Bryce Harper is a little bit more than that. I think he's your overall best hitter. You want him hitting certainly in the 2 or 3 spot. But I thought the most notable thing was that Adam Hazley did get the start in today's game, in particular with 2 righties coming up on Saturday and Sunday. So it seems like he will be your everyday starting center fielder to start the year. And I would guess this is the batting order we're going to have basically to start the season as well, assuming things get off on the right foot in the way that Joe Girardi likes it. Given the pitching roles, and we heard Girardi allude to this a number of times during spring, he does want established pitching roles. He said that Hector Neris will be the closer to start the year. Of course, there was no save opportunity in today's game, though he did pitch the 9th. Connor Brogdon went in the 10th, but those 2 setup guys that he named, Archie Bradley and Jose Alvarado, they both got appearances. Archie Bradley finishing off the 7th for Nola after he serves up the home run to Sandoval. And then Jose Alvarado seemed like that was going to be the one thing you pin yourself on, is he essentially has to pitch the 8th. Like when you only have one lefty, Girardi's probably sitting there saying, all right, Freddie Freeman's coming up. We have to get him in a tie game for that late game Freddie Freeman at bat. And you can't there's no more loogies, the left-handed one-out guys, right? You have to face at least 3 batters. Jose Alvarado walks Freeman on 4 pitches. He still has to stay in there for at least 2 more batters. He ultimately works out of the inning, faced more than 3 batters, faced the maximum you physically can without allowing a run. But that's kind of the predicament you put yourself in. And ironically, the home run that Aaron Nola allowed today was to a left-handed batter in Pablo Sandoval. Now, look, it's unlikely that if you even had Jojo Romero on this team, Aaron Nola was pitching well. That would have got him through the lineup a 3rd time. You probably don't have a left-handed guy ready for specifically Pablo Sandoval. But I think it does beg the question, how did the bullpen strategy has to be affected. It has to be affected by the fact that Alvarado is the only lefty on this team. He's not going to be the closer while he's the only lefty on this team because you're going to have to save him for those late game lefty situations. And I'd imagine that's how he'll be used for the remainder of this series with Freddie Freeman coming up in big spots late in games. So thought that was interesting to note. I thought the fact that, like I said, Adam Hazley starting was interesting to note. I thought Archie Bradley coming in to finish the inning. He's a guy who has closing experience, but they have him in the setup role right now. Good to see that he is able to get out of the inning as well. And ultimately, Hector Neris, I thought had, despite the velocity being down, had a nice clean inning, despite not in a save situation. But to start the year, Joe Girardi says he will be the guy pitching in the ninth inning, and he pitched the ninth inning today, just in a tie game. Previewing this weekend's game, I already told you Charlie Morton and Ian Anderson will be pitching for the Braves. The Phillies will be pitching Zach Wheeler in Saturday's ballgame. No night games in this series, by the way, a rarity in Major League Baseball. 3:05 start time today, 4:05 on Saturday, 1:05 on Sunday. Opening night, not even until Monday when they take on the New York Mets for a 7:05 game. But so Saturday's matchup will be Zach Wheeler against Charlie Morton. The veteran pitchers in this series, I'll call it. Zach Wheeler had a career-best 2.92 ERA in 2020. Charlie Morton, who's age 37, he had a 4.74 ERA last year, but consistently with ERAs in the threes for years before that in both Houston and Tampa. So you'll get them on Saturday, and then on Sunday it'll be Zach Eflin, who had a career-best ERA 3.97. He's going to be huge for the Phillies rotation this season, and he will be going up against Ian Anderson, who had a 1.95, very impressive ERA in 6 starts in 2020, and he's the second-ranked prospect within the Braves organization. They are certainly expecting big things out of him, and that will be certainly a good test for this Phillies lineup, rather. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked on Phillies podcast. Of course, you can follow me at Dan_Wilson4 on Twitter, or the podcast at LO_Phillies. Tell me what you think. Hopefully you liked it. This was the first time, again, I've been doing this since October, that I actually had a real regular season game to talk about. Certainly an exciting one. Looking forward to doing it all season long right here on Locked on Phillies.